On Saturday night, Austin FC played Sporting Kansas City for the 10th time in club history. Not the really decent to sloppy 90-minute match performance from Austin FC. Austin FC beat Sporting Kansas City in a 1-0 score from Ousmane Boukari, scoring the only goal for Austin FC. My reaction to this game was pretty much this. It was basically a sloppy win, a sloppy performance, but there's a glimpse of hope that we might see a lot of improvement with this Austin FC squad for the entire 2025 season. But I'll take it. A win is a win. The first time ain't gonna be perfect, so I'll take it anyways. But before I get to that, let's look at the starting lineup. This starting 11 from Nico Esteves' first 11 for the 2025 season was quite interesting. We see the same back four players that we saw last season, with the two reliable fullbacks, Mikel Dessler on the right side and Guillermo Buru on the left side. And the two center backs, people were asking for Alexander Svokta to start over Julio Cascante, but if it's not broken, then don't fix it. We see Brandon Heinzike and Julio Cascante paired up again for this first game of the season. You could say that maybe Cascante was not good last year, but let's be honest here. What Cascante did in this game against Sporting Kansas City, he delivered good long balls to Brandon Vazquez or anybody in the final third for Austin FC, so I'll take it. The midfield was something interesting to look at here, because we didn't start with two pivot midfield players like we did with Josh, who was still our coach. We saw only one player in the midfield, and that was captain Elias Sanchez in the 6 or in the 5, being the only defensive midfield player in this game. And to be honest with you guys, seeing this performance from Sanchez with Austin FC, he did a hell of a job. And what he did with LAFC, he followed up here with Austin FC. Then we see two central midfield players. One was Owen Wolf on the left side and Danny Pereira on the right side, but both of them had their own jobs to do. They were playing dual roles. We saw Owen Wolf play mostly as a creative-minded player in the midfield, supporting attack. Meanwhile, we saw Danny Pereira stay in the midfield, being defensive mode, like we see him mostly the entire time with Austin FC. Then we see a fresh pair of a new front three. We see our two wingers. Jaleo Brian starts on the right side with Ousmane Boukari starting on the left side. Then we see our new $10 million DP, and that's Brandon Vazquez as our striker, the number 9. You could say that this lineup was interesting because what Nico Esteves wanted to focus on was make the defense be stable and solid and allow our attack to do a lot of intensity, and that's what we saw in this game. Austin FC's performance against Sporting Kansas City for the full 90-minute match performance was basically two words: intensity and dominance. The first half starts and we see Austin FC going at it. We see that they're pushing so much inside the Sporting Kansas City box that they didn't even allow Sporting Kansas City enter Austin FC's own half. We do see a lot of improvement here because why? We finally get to see the midfield being used, unlike the times when Joshua was our coach. This time we see Ousmane Boukari be a player that we want him to be when he came to Austin FC last summer. He is a player who cuts inside those open spaces in the midfield, and he does a hell of a job. He just sneaks in and boom, you give him free space, he takes advantage of it. Then we see Owen Wolf being a player with better confidence now. What he was last season, it's now gone. He's a new player, new fresh pair of legs we see in him, because he mostly supports the attack, and you can see him going mostly on the left side or on the right side, supporting Ousmane Boukari and let him do the finishing the entire time. No more of him being like a Swiss Army knife, or being used as a right back, as a winger, or as a midfield, vice versa. He is mostly now right there as a center midfield player, being creative at all times. Then we see Brandon Vazquez glimpse of attack is better than before when we had Urruti, Hosen, Zardes, Bruin, and Jitse. Those 5 players couldn't do what Brandon Vazquez was. He was fast. He knew how to execute well with the aerial crosses. He could also defend. He would always push up and put a lot of pressure to the back four Sporting Kansas City. And now we see Elias Sanchez. Elias Sanchez here in this game against Sporting Kansas City, against his first MLS club he was with before, he was something that we could never see or we could never get out of Joka Valencia. He basically maintained that midfield, kept it solid, and he basically kept it under control. With Elias Sanchez, we see what he means to the club. With Austin FC, his leadership, his confidence, him being a captain, everything is what we need for this club. I would say Elias Sanchez is a better improvement than Joko Valencia, and probably on par with Alex Ring. But I would say he kept that midfield and with a lot of control. Then we can see Biru and Dessler. Dessler, let's just say this, he was the biggest steal in club history because we got him for free, and what he did was exceptionally well. I may be a kiss ass to Michael Dessler, but Dessler, the entire time he pushes up, he knew when to come back. He was basically flexible the entire time. You could see him as a wing back player, but he mostly is a right back, like defensive right back player every time anybody from Sporting Kansas City push up. Then with Biru just snuck up every time and could go in the midfield being like his own. Or basically Nico Estevez telling him straight up, go make the midfield your own or just be a midfield player the entire time. There was glimpses we saw in the game where it was basically a 4-4-2 when we saw Owen Wolf and Brandon Vasquez as the two strikers with Usman Bukhari and Jade Obrian being our midfield players. The right midfield player was Jade Obrian and the left midfield player was Usman Bukhari. But I would say that the player here that was sloppy was Jade Obrian. He kind of did an okayish job, but it wasn't perfect the entire match. Every time he would get the ball, first touch was fine, but his second touch was so bad that his foot made it heavy, that the heavy touch, he had a heavy touch basically. But I would say the next game against Portland Timbers, we have to start Gallagher over Jade Obrian, because when Gallagher came in the second half, you can see that Gallagher was much more, he brought more energy, fresh pair of legs for Austin FC. And what he did with Brandon Vasquez in this game, Vasquez and Gallagher both linked up like this. They knew how to execute well when it came to the passing and to the finishing. And that's what we expect for basically, you could say Uzuni, Mirtu Uzuni when he finally starts for Austin FC. But for now, we will have to go with Gallagher and Obrian as our right wingers or left wingers. We'll have to see. Also, maybe this is my point of view, but Danny Pereira had a sloppy game. There's moments where we saw that he was mostly, because Elias Sanchez and Danny Pereira were both mostly in the defensive mind for the midfield. But there's moments where you saw that Elias Sanchez told Danny Pereira straight up to go up and take advantage of those open spaces in the midfield. But, Danny Pereira did his best. I'll give him credit for almost scoring the first goal for Austin FC, but he has to take less power in that shot. But that's the best thing about Austin FC too. We saw a lot of glimpses in the attack that was intense. We see that instead of passing the ball so much inside the box, all we did was simple one-time shot, and there you go. If you didn't make it, it's fine. You can try again. Our defense, Julio Cascante and Brendan Heinzag made it an easy night for Brad Stewart, because Stu, in the last two games, last two seasons, the first two home openers to St. Louis and to Minnesota United, he had a combined 14 saves because of those two home openers. This game against Sporting Kansas City, only 2 saves. Why? Because the defense knew exactly what to do. Cascante and Brandon Heinzag did a great job keeping that midfield they stood their ground, and with the help of Elias Sanchez, nothing happened, because whenever Sporting Kansas City pushed up, all they did was basically this. They pressured and they did a great job. But we see a set piece from a corner kick. Owen Wolf converts it, kicks it. Then we see Usman Bukhari scores it. Not with his head, not with his chest, but the ball hits his face and makes it inside the box. But ref Chris Penso thought, oh no, that's a handball because Julio Cascante might have touched it. No, it was clean. The goal was given. Usman Bukhari scores his first ever Austin FC goal at Q2 Stadium. As an official game. He did score a goal, but it was on the road against Nashville back in September, I believe or October. But basically, this game itself, the full 90-minute match, was basically Austin FC finding their legs, building chemistry. When Bezar Savovic, his first game, he did a great job coming as off the bench, and with Diego Rubio, that meant that Nico Estevez wasn't going to play around. He wanted Austin FC to score more goals, and it was that we were trying to do. But we had like about 1 or 2 shots. It was a quiet game after that goal, but we didn't give up. It could have been like at least a 2-3-0 if Brandon Vasquez could have finished he had a good shot, hit the post, crossbar, but wasn't in. That's what we want from Brandon Vasquez. He was a player who was hungry for a goal, and we have to wait probably this entire season. Next game, Portland Timbers, so we might see a goal right there. But basically, guys, that's my reaction, my thoughts, my analysis of this game. Austin FC gets their first win of this 2025 season to Sporting Kansas City, who had a midweek game against Inter Miami. But no excuses, we got the win. It ain't gonna be perfect, but I'll take it. A win is a win. Hope you guys understood this video. My name is VanillaMexican 17, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.